Hello, Wolf Mountain Kindred. Hi, go with you, Brandon again. Welcome to our second video in the series on spirits. Today we will be covering one of the husvetir or house spirits, and two other ones that sort of fall into the same line as a house spirit. So the first on our list that we are talking about today is going to be the Tomte or Nisse. Tomte being Swedish, Nisse being Norwegian or Danish. The Tomte and Nisse roughly translates into the English language as elf, but this couldn't be further from the truth. As you heard in the last video, the elves are a completely different being entirely, and they are more related to the forest than they are the home or the farm. More accurately, in modern times, a Tomte or Nisse would be more along the lines of what we know as gnomes, like garden gnomes or like Christmas elves, more so than traditional Norse elves. The Tomte usually resides in the home, around the home, or somewhere on the property or farm, and they are directly tied to it. Their sole concern is the farmstead or homestead, not necessarily the people that are living there, because these beings live hundreds of years. They are very old and very wise. They have seen many generations go through this property, so they're way more attached to the land and the home than they are the people. So something to keep in mind. That being said, one way to get on their good side is to make sure you are taking care of the home or taking care of the property, the animals on it if it's a farm, not letting it fall to the wayside, and not letting it fall to the bottom of your to-do list to make sure you're taking care of the home and the land, and that's a good start to building a relationship with the Tomte or Nisse. Now, the Nisse is more active at night because they are generally antisocial spirits. They want to be left alone pretty much more than anything. They don't want you messing with them. They don't want you interrupting their routine. So when they do work, they're working at night. They're moving around at night. If you are on their good side, they will, in their time that they're up and moving around, help you take care of the home, the chores. They'll help take care of the animals, the land, the property, the vegetation. They will help with all of that because that not only is their concern, but they're willing to help if you're also putting in the effort and building that relationship. It is said that a sure sign that a Tomte or Nisse is on your property is that if you have horses, one of the horses will have a Tomteflator, which is a knot in the mane that is impossible to get out. You cannot get it out. And it is said that that horse is the Tomte's horse, and that is one way to know if you have one on the property. Like I said, the Tomte want to be left alone, and are very short-tempered traditionally if you anger them. Some ways to anger them, we'll talk about the offerings to them in a second, but if you give them porridge, forgetting to put honey in the porridge could be enough to irritate the Tomte, enough to, potentially play tricks, like move something that you normally use within the home or around the farmstead to a place where you can't find it to inconvenience you. For the more serious offenses against a Tomte or Nisse, it is said that the Tomte can go to the barn and kill, like, the best milking cow, or potentially brutally beat the person that disrespected them to the point where they may not live a lot longer. Offerings for the Tomte and Nisse would very oftentimes be silver coins, bread. A big one that is still tradition for the Yule Nisse is porridge. It's a very, very big one, well attested for in the folklore, and that's where the whole not putting honey in the porridge will be a punishable offense. There is a story where a female on the homestead offered a Tomte new clothes because it said that, they wear raggedy clothes. So she made him new clothes and he put them on, and he became so infatuated with the new clothing that he didn't want to get it dirty, and he stopped working around the farmstead and left so he didn't ruin his new clothes. That's an instance where a kind gesture kind of ended up negatively for the farmstead because they lost the Tomte, which really they bring more good than they do bad to the farmstead, so you want them there, and giving him those new clothes caused him to leave. So you also have to be careful when giving these spirits offerings, because if you want to keep them and you give them something that they don't want to ruin or don't want to, get dirty or break, there's a potential for the relationship just to end because they will leave. It is said that Tomtes and Nisses can shapeshift, and some of the things that they are said that they shapeshift into are a black cat. They can shapeshift into toads and even snakes. There's a lot of lore that tells us that people believe that Tomte shapeshifted into snakes, so all of the snakes on the property that were found were treated with respect and fed and taken care of rather than seen as a pest. Just in case, one of the snakes was in fact a Tomte, they didn't want to irritate it, and they wanted to keep it there and keep it happy, to help and bring good luck and prosperity to the farmstead or homestead. Warriors of ready your souls, fight for the glory, hear the Odin is watching. The next spirit we're going to be talking about is the Kvarngubbe, or the mill spirit or mill guardian. Much like the Tomte, its sole concern is the well-being and functionality of the mill that it presides over. If you are lazy, cutting corners, not doing things as they should be done, then you will severely irritate the mill guardian, and he may lash out in the ways that the Tomte does. One of the ways that you could specifically irritate the mill spirit is working at night. These spirits are active throughout the day, but they want to be left alone at night. They want quiet and peace at night, because at night they go out on the water and play their instruments. If you do go out to the mill to try and work at night, it is said that they will use the incredible strength that they have and just stop the mill wheel in its tracks. You won't be able to move it, no matter how hard you try or how much help you have. This sort of leads us into offerings for the mill spirit, in that it is said that if you take a twist of tobacco and throw it to the Kvarngubbe that it will let go of the mill wheel and enjoy the nice twist of tobacco you gave him, and you'll be able to work freely and everything will work as it should. Another common offering, same as the Tomte and Nisse, is silver coins. You can go into the mill, lay out silver coins, and earn the favor of the mill spirit, potentially to work at night, or potentially just to build that nice relationship that you want to have with the spirits on the property that you're working on, so that way they continue to help you and continue to ensure that things are done as they should be. Now that we've covered the Kvarngubbe, we will move on to the Skeppsra. The Skeppsra is a ship spirit, possibly related to both the mill spirit and the Tomte, because they all have very distinct similarities, which we're going to go over after this. But the ship spirit, again, its main concern is the welfare of the ship. It spends most of its time below the deck, looking for rotting wood, any worms, anything that would indicate that the ship itself is being damaged or hurt in any way. It is believed in some of the lore that these spirits on the ship came from the tree that was made, or that was used, for the lumber for the boat. That being said, it's quite possible that the ship spirit was at one point simply a land spirit or a forest spirit attached to a tree. But since the tree was cut down, it moved with that wood and is now the guardian of the ship. It is kind of fascinating thinking about it that way, because if we look at everything we have from an animistic point of view, most of what we have within our homes, around our homes, at work, it all mostly came from nature. So to think that a spirit that was attached to a tree at one point is now the spirit that presides over a ship, it makes you kind of think, as it should, how many spirits you're actually surrounded by every day because of all of the stuff that we have that is made from the forest and made from nature. Really interesting to think about, and something definitely worth pondering over if you get the chance. Now, much like the mill spirit and the Tomte, this spirit also has incredible strength. The way that this is showcased in the lore is that sometimes a boat or ship would have been made out of more than one tree. Potentially more than one tree that had a spirit residing in it. And that would cause a problem. So the boat would be built, and these two spirits would not be able to decide who would be the guardian of the spirit. Sometimes these, disputes were settled. Sometimes they resorted to violence. And when these two spirits fought each other, it is said that it would get so bad that the ship itself would explode into splinters because of how strong these spirits were. Sometimes the owner of the ship would butt in and interject and say something along the lines of a negotiation almost, saying that one spirit could be the guardian of this ship, and then when the boat builder builds a second ship, that the other spirit could be the guardian of that ship, sort of trying to be the mediator between the two spirits if he saw them before they blew up the ship.
Is watching.
next we're going to go over some commonalities between all of these spirits. Some of them we already touched on, but we'll touch on them again in a little bit more depth. So the first thing is, with all of these spirits, all three of them that we talked about, their sole concern, much like the Landvettir, is the property or structure that they preside over. The human's well-being is of minor concern to them compared to the structure or land that they live on. As you saw from the Tomte being disrespected, can brutally beat the person that disrespected them to the point of death, and it doesn't bother them because it didn't negatively affect the land. They can take care of that on their own. They don't need us to take care of it. They're just okay with us being there and are willing to help if it benefits the property or the land, the house, the ship, the mill. That leads us to the other very prevalent commonality among all of them, and that is their strength. The Tomte or Nisse can strangle a full-grown cow to death with no effort. Like I just said, they can brutally, beat a human with little to no effort. It doesn't bother them. It's just the amount of strength that they have. The mill guardian can stop a mill wheel, an entire mill, from operating just because it wants to. No effort. And we just talked about it, the ship spirit, two of them fighting causes an entire ship to explode into splinters. So all of these spirits are extremely strong, much, much stronger than we are. So something to keep in mind, just, whether for learning purposes only or, if you feel that you have one, just know that they're extremely strong. They all accept, every single one of them accepts coins as offerings according to the lore. Specifically silver coins, but, you also have to think of the time that this lore was written. More times than not, it was silver coins that were being exchanged between humans as currency, so that would be the coins that they would have to offer. That doesn't mean, a quarter or a $50, in American money won't be a sufficient offering, because majority of us here don't have silver coins just lying around. So coins in general are seen as an offering for all three of these spirits. Now, we're going to touch here on their appearances, alright? So for the most part, what is attested is that these three spirits appear as old men, very, very, very short old men, usually with a long beard, raggedy clothes, and a pointy hat. The Tomte and Nisse specifically is a red pointy hat, as well as a beard. If it was an ancient Tomte or Nisse, it would have a beard so long that it could wrap around its body many times before the end. That can also be said for the mill spirit as well. If it was a very ancient spirit, it would have a very long beard, just like the Tomte and Nisse. So as far as modern interpretations of these spirits go, there aren't many. However, the lore on the Nisse and Tomte specifically have survived in new traditions. such as what I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the Tomte and Nisse specifically, the Yule Nisse. Um, this is sort of an evolution to the original folklore on the Nisse, uh, in a sense that it survived and just kind of took on a different responsibility and different meaning to stay in the lore, and that is on Christmas or Yule. The Yule Nisse would bring gifts to children across Scandinavia, and in exchange, you would leave out porridge for it. And there again, you see that another tradition survived, in being the offering to the Nisse is still porridge. Um, you leave it out, the Yule Nisse show up at night, bring gifts for the children, and take the porridge. This is, by some, believed where the Christmas elves come from. Like we sort of talked about in the beginning, how the modern view on Christmas elves very closely resembles what the folklore says Nisse or Tomte look like. Uh, but that is just one way that these spirits have survived in the lore, and that is that they basically evolved into something that fit modern culture and modern ideals across Scandinavia, and that is, Christmas. They fit into Christmas more so now than what they used to be uh, tied into and talked about. Um, that pretty much covers it for these three spirits. I'll throw one more in there that's sort of newer in the folklore, and it kind of resembles what most of us know as like a sort of like a genie in a bottle, and it's called a spiritus. And what this spirit is it can be one of many spirits. It could even be a Tomte or Nisse. But it is a spirit that basically attaches itself to an object in your home. Uh, kind of like how I was talking about the animistic view earlier, where anything you bring into your home that was made from nature could have a spirit attached to it, from that material's original form. But the spiritus is attached to any object. It doesn't have to be from nature. There are even ways to lure a spiritus to an object and try and get it to live there, because it is, much like these other spirits, good luck. It can bring health, prosperity, wealth, protection. There's the potential for all of these things if you have a spiritus in your home. Now, the object that the spiritus attaches itself to can either stay in the home, like on a shelf, on an indoor altar, or it can be carried on your person. If it's like a lot of times it was a bone, like a spiritus could attach itself to a bone, or a vase, or a bottle. But the few ways that there are, out of the few ways that there are to attract a spiritus, is to leave offerings around what object you want it to inhabit. So if it's a vase that you want the spiritus to live in, then you would leave offerings around the vase, in hope that a spiritus lives there. These are not, if the spiritus is not a Tomte or Nisse, and is not specifically attached to the property, then it could very well potentially decide to leave if it does show up. In in which case you would either have to try and get it to come back, or try and get another spirit to reside in that object or in your home by leaving offerings out and calling to it. There is one other thing that I actually just remembered. I didn't put it on my organizational sheet in front of me for this video, and it has to do with calling in a spirit, and that would be the Tomte. It is said that if you do not believe you have one on your property and you do want one, that you go out to a crossroads at night on Thursday and you call out for a Tomte. And you do this for 3 Thursdays in a row. And on the 3rd Thursday at the crossroads, when you call out for a Tomte, one should show up. And you ask it if it will be the guardian of your home or your homestead or farm. And that is one way to acquire a Tomte for your property. So that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to put in this video. I hope it was informational and I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. If you don't want to leave a comment because you're shy, you can get a hold of myself or any of the other Gothi or leadership within Wolf Mountain Kindred, and we will be happy to help you. Thank you and goodbye.
So family, not like he's coming. Warriors of